So now let's talk about system requirement. So when I talk about system requirement, I just wanted to tell you what is the system requirement you need to have if you want to make your career in data engineering, right? At least i5, okay, with 8 GB and 2 cores should be fine. Okay, this should be fine. This should be a minimal standard which I recommend you, that you should have at least i5 machine and 8 cores, 8 GB RAM, and then 2 core processor. That should be good enough to get started. Okay, but then if you say, hey, I do not have i5 and 8 GB machine, but what I have is i3 and 4 GB and 2 cores probably. Okay, if that is the case, can you upgrade this 4 to 8? Can you do this? Right? If you cannot do that, then I will say, no worries. What you do is create a dual boot. Okay, create a dual boot, and in one boot you will have your Windows, and in another boot let's have Linux, Ubuntu. Okay, but then if you have i5 and 8 GB, then what happens? In 8 GB you can easily install virtual machine, and then you can have your Ubuntu on this virtual machine, and we will install Hadoop on Ubuntu. Now you may say, can I not install Hadoop in Windows? It is possible. Yes, it is possible. But then the point is, I really don't recommend that to do, because when you install Windows, then you will be completely focused on Windows environment, right? But then when you say you are a big data developer, you will have to write a lot of code, create a jar, deploy it on your Linux boxes in the real time. Edge nodes would all be mostly Linux based boxes, right? And it is very much important that we should have a complete hands-on on Linux commands, right? And installing Hadoop on Windows will not help you to become good in Linux commands. So let us try to throw away that bad habit right away, right? So I would prefer doing the installation in Ubuntu, so that as we move on with the Hadoop installations and all, you will be able to come across a lot of commands like chmod, chown, vim, cat, and these and all, right? Tail, more, and so on. And that will help you to work very easily in the production environment as well. Okay, if you're planning to buy a new laptop for any reason, right? So let's say you have made up your mind that I want to buy a new laptop. What do you recommend? Okay, I recommend you to get at least i7 with 16 GB of RAM, 4 or 8, whatever you can get. And this is what I would recommend. And why do I recommend i7? Because see, i9 is already in the market. Now when you get i7, you have a very powerful machine with you, right? And then later, after 2 years, if something else comes, I'm sure this guy would be able to manage that as well, right? Because i7 would still be good enough in the next 5 years at least, right? But then if you still buy i5, then we don't know what will come tomorrow, right? And that would be a difficult job. And I would recommend you to get a 16 GB RAM, because sometimes you may be interested to use some quick start. Okay, and for example, Cloudera quick start, or any other third party quick start, your 8 GB of total RAM is not even sufficient to start to use that quick start. So if you want to work with those quick starts, then you will need at least 16 GB of RAM, because it consumes a lot of memory. Okay, so if you have something in mind, you want to upgrade, please upgrade it to this dimension if possible. Okay, and I know processor you may not be able to upgrade, right? And this also you may not be able to upgrade, but then the only thing what you can do is upgrade your RAM till certain extent, right? But then if you have a plan to buy a new laptop, I would suggest you to take this configuration. It's okay, you can just go ahead with AMD processor as well, no worries. You can even go ahead with M1 processor, no worries, right? But then I just wanted to tell you that this is what I basically prefer you to get a configuration if you want to buy a new laptop anytime soon. Okay,